We think of history being made by kings and queens, but it was actually made by wood, stone, and steel. Before gunpowder changed everything, the battlefield was a place of brutal physics and cold engineering. Some weapons were built for finesse, others were built for psychological terror. From a simple stick that conquered the world to a siege engine so terrifying it made kings surrender before a single shot was fired, these are the weapons that defined human history. And the most effective one? It's probably not the one you think. Let's start with the spear. Forget the movies. The sword wasn't the primary weapon of history. The spear was. It predates civilization itself. Why? Because it's simple physics. Keep the bad guy over there while you're over here. From Greek hoplites to Zulu warriors, the spear allowed armies to fight as a single, impenetrable wall of death. It was cheap to make, easy to learn, and in a formation, it was virtually unstoppable. But if the spear was the wall, the bow was the sniper rifle. It changed the logic of war. Why risk a fair fight when you can kill from 200 yards away? The Mongols built the largest contiguous empire in history, using horse archery, firing at a full gallop and retreating before the enemy could even draw their swords. Whether it was the English longbow that decimated French knights at Agincourt, or the Egyptian composite bow, the bow proved that range equals power. However, don't let the Sunday school stories fool you. The sling wasn't a toy. In the hands of a professional, a lead projectile could be hurled with the force of a .22 caliber bullet. The Balearic slingers of ancient Spain were so deadly that Rome actually hired them as mercenaries rather than face them. It was the ultimate low-budget, high-damage weapon. Then there's the axe. Before iron and steel made sword production practical, the axe was the choice of the common soldier. It didn't need the finesse of a blade. It used gravity and leverage to crush through armor and split shields like kindling. Norse warriors turned the axe into an art form, creating double-handed designs capable of cleaving through chainmail and bone in a single swing. It was pure, unfiltered stopping power. But for sheer terror, nothing compared to the war elephant. Imagine you're a soldier who has never seen an animal larger than a cow. Suddenly, a 6-ton gray monster plated in armor is charging at you, screaming. The war elephant was the ancient world's tank. Hannibal used them to cross the Alps. Alexander the Great had to invent entirely new tactics just to survive them. Even if they didn't kill you, the psychological impact usually broke the formation. Before the elephant, there was the chariot. For over 1,000 years, the chariot was the Bronze Age Ferrari. It served as a mobile firing platform for archers. At the Battle of Kadesh, over 5,000 of these collided in the largest chariot battle ever recorded. It was the peak of military technology, until infantry tactics evolved to trip the horses. The Romans took a different approach with the javelin, or the pilum. This was a masterpiece of cruel engineering. The neck was made of soft iron. When it hit an enemy's shield, the metal would bend. This made it impossible to throw back, and it forced the enemy to throw away their heavy, compromised shield right as the Roman legionaries reached them. It was a single-use weapon engineered with cold precision, and once the shields were gone, the Romans drew the gladius. This sword built the Roman Empire. It wasn't flashy, it was short. But in a tight shield wall, you don't have room to swing a long sword. You stab. The Romans drilled relentlessly on the thrust. A 2-inch wound to the torso was a death sentence in the ancient world. The gladius wasn't a weapon of honor, it was a weapon of efficiency. Of course, no weapon carries more cultural weight than the sword. While the spear won the battle, the sword was the mark of a warrior. From the curved art of the Japanese katana to the heavy double-edged blades of medieval Europe, the sword was a status symbol. It was personal, it was essential for when the formations collapsed and the fighting became a nightmare. When individual weapons weren't enough to break a fortress, ancient engineers built the catapult. Using tension and torsion, it could hurl stones or burning material at walls from a distance. Siege warfare was never the same. But the undisputed king of the siege was the trebuchet. If the catapult was a handgun, the trebuchet was a railgun. Using a massive counterweight, it could launch a 100-kilogram stone hundreds of meters with remarkable accuracy. At the siege of Stirling Castle in 1304, the King of England had one so large it required 50 master carpenters to build. It was so impressive the defenders tried to surrender just by looking at it. But the king made them wait so he could fire it anyway. Walls that had stood for generations came down in days. It was the peak of engineering, until the smell of gunpowder changed the world forever.